Hello, and welcome to Katie's Christmas Cooking. I'm Katie Deneen, and today I'll be demonstrating how to make Christmas spice cakes as shown in Wuthering Heights, and telling you how this relates to the themes of Wuthering Heights and to 19th century England. The Christmas spice cakes appear in Chapter 7 as Nellie makes the spice cakes for everyone on Christmas Eve, and the spice cakes and their preparation are used to characterize the characters and to further show the unity or lack thereof within the household. As I said before, I'm Katie Deneen, and I will be your host as showing you what I read in Emily Bronte's 19th century novel Wuthering Heights reveals about English society during this time. In order to make Christmas spice cakes, you take regular flour ingredients like flour, sugar, baking soda, and you're going to add to them spices such as ground nutmeg, ground allspice, ground cloves, and ground cinnamon. Spices such as these show the connections that England still had to its spice roots, especially in India, and it also shows a bit of festivity because these are spices that we still today associate with Christmas time and the holidays, and it's interesting to see that even back then at that time such spices were being used in cake. I want to talk about the first bit of characterization that comes from the Christmas cake in Wuthering Heights. When Catherine enters and sees Nellie making the cakes, she, quote, kissed her gently. I was all of flour making the Christmas cake, and it would not have done to hug me. This quote clearly shows on page 147 that Nellie's hardworking nature continues to be and caring nature continues to abound in the household. It also characterizes Catherine and her love for Nellie, and how caring and gentle she was with all, that even though someone was covered in flour, which I kind of am, you can't really tell, she would still kiss them and show her love for her during Christmas. Ingredients, I've added water, oil, and I substituted applesauce for eggs, partially because I was out of eggs, and partially because in this same chapter, food also shows up when Heathcliff throws hot applesauce in Edgar's face to show his rage. So now that those ingredients are all together, the mixture looks like this, and we are going to put it in the oven as Nellie would have done, and then I'll explain another reference to the book. A luxury that Nellie probably did not have, but I have a muffin tin and Pam spray because she made individual cakes for all the people, which kind of symbolizes how they were all divided. She knew they wouldn't enjoy having one cake because they probably wouldn't know how to split it up. So she made them individual cakes, so I'm just going to spray these, which she would not have done, but modern solutions. And this leads us to another quote where, due to the disagreements within the family, Nellie felt kind of alone, and she said, also on page 147, quote, under the circumstances, I remained solitary. I smelt the warm smell of heating spices, which shows that Nellie had to be kind of removed from the family due to all their disagreements and how she's such a gentle soul that it hurts her to see these people argue, so she has to remain solitary and find small solaces in things like heating spices and her work, as she's such a hardworking and dedicated woman. Continue to divvy up the batter, it leads to our last quote, where Joseph is personified, as Nellie explains that, quote, his cake and cheese remained on the table all night for the fairies, end quote, on page 148. And this is a key quote because it demonstrates once again how they were not unified even during such a good time as Christmas, that there were supposed to be Christmas fairies coming in, it was supposed to be such a festive time and a time of love, but they still could not be unified in Wuthering Heights, and just further shows the divisions between the people and how Nellie is really the only one who's trying to keep them all together because of her loving nature. But enough about the book specifically, because that's kind of a depressing part of the baking, but as far as 19th century England as a whole goes, the spice cakes really show a bit about their lives in particular. For example, Nellie was doing all the cooking, which shows that there was still a lot of servant labor, and a lot of the aristocracy still didn't do their own cooking, their own cleaning, that sort of thing. So that kind of gives a key into how the rich people lived during this time, and Nellie's point of view shows how the poor people lived and that they were put under, but a lot of them truly, as Nellie showed, really enjoyed their service and they saw it as a good way to work and give back to their community. Furthermore, the spice cakes show the simplicity. Spice cakes aren't really as sweet as other cakes, and it kind of shows the simplicity of the 19th century cuisine and their lives in general, especially in England. It wasn't a dark time, but just in general, just kind of a plain and simple time where such things like spices would be used to enrich life but not necessarily make it sweeter. And it was very interesting to see that this was one of like the few recipes that was showed, even though they were often seen eating the spice cakes, was something that Bronte really focused on and showed, like actually talked about what Nellie was making and not just saying that they had a dinner. So it was very interesting that she highlighted this as part of it due to probably its festivity and its relation to Christmas time, and also because of how it relates to the characters and their characterization throughout this beginning part of the novel in chapter 7. And when you're all done, this is what the spice cake should look like. As you can see, I had a bite of one, and they are pretty good. So thank you to Emily Bronte for her great novel, and I hope that we all learned something about the novel itself if you haven't read it yet, or just something in general about 19th century British culture and society. Thank you.